welcome to the Grousing Gazer. My name is Klaus and I'll be your host and narrator for this video. Today we're going to review Paola Harris's book, Clifford Stone, Eyes Only, the story of Clifford Stone and UFO crash retrievals, which I'll refer to as Eyes Only because the full title is quite a mouthful. In Eyes Only, Harris presents her information in an interview format. It is extensive because Clifford Stone has gone out on 12 crash retrievals where there were ETs present. Some retrievals yielded dead bodies, while other retrievals yielded live ETs. What astonished me most about Eyes Only was Stone's interfacing experiences. He locked eyes with the entity, and immediately the entity knew Stone's feelings, and Stone knew the entity's feelings, as well as the message the entity wanted to convey to Stone. All done telepathically. Eyes Only transformed my opinion of the EVEs to something much more personable, like guests or visitors from another planet, someone you can be friends with, not enemies. Let's see if it transforms your opinion of them. Mr. Stone, would you please introduce yourself?
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Clifford Stone. I was a Sergeant First Class, United States Army. I had a secret clearance with nuclear surety. I could get the clearance that I needed to do whatever it was that was necessary for me to do at the time on special operations when I was called in on those. What I'm referring to here is that I was involved in situations where we actually did recoveries of crashed saucers, for lack of a better term, debris thereof. There were bodies that were involved with some of these crashes, also some were alive. While we were doing all this, we were telling the American public there was nothing to it. We were telling the world there was nothing to it. But the whole situation is, we've set back, we've told the American people that there's no such thing as UFOs. I've been involved where we have recovered these objects. We know them to be of extraterrestrials. In 1969, I had an event that happened to me while I was stationed at Fort Lee, Virginia. We went to Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. That would be my first exposure to any time that we would be recovering an unidentified flying object. When we went there, we already had people that was already in the facility. We were a backup team, which was supposed to be MDC because there was supposed to be some nuclear materials that was on board this craft. Later on, most people involved were to be told that there was nothing on board it. It was nothing more than just a crash of one of our aircraft. I know better because I was one of the people that approached it with a Geiger counter to get surface readings. I was the first person to go ahead and see that there were bodies on it. That would be the first of approximately 12 events. UFO crashes are not events that take place every day. They're rare. I know we're not alone in the universe. I know that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's evidence that has been denied to the American people. I stand before you today in my almighty God, and I tell you this. If Congress calls me in and says, will you testify in detail what you know, I stand here today prepared and ready to do just that. Governments must never lie to the people for no reason. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. You forgot to mention your military awards, like your Certificate of Achievement from your commanding general for exemplary service. And what about your evaluation reports from September 82 through June 83 and May 85 through January 86? Not everyone gets perfect marks for their service. On your efficiency report of August 7th, 1986, your captain said Sergeant First Class Stone greatly exceeds the duty requirements of his position. Sergeant First Class Stone is by far one of the most dedicated and loyal NCOs I ever had the pleasure of working with during my 80 years of military service. A sincerely patriotic American and highly professional soldier. You also forgot to mention your Meritorious Service Medal. Very impressive. You convinced me of your credibility. Now, let's get back to eyes only. Mr. Stone, you had an interview with Paula Harris. Would you tell us about your extraterrestrial childhood friend, Corona with a K?
There's one group that has contact with me. I'm like, you know,
And you have a name in your biography, and I forgot what
Corona.
his Corona.
For some odd reason, he always wanted me to understand it was spelled with a K.
Okay. And so he wanted, and Corona is always with you, more or less. I mean, always with you, knows what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I'm like they say that they pick up on one person, they follow that person throughout life, and they're with that person long enough to mourn the death of that person.
Okay. Is Corona human-like, or is Corona gray?
I wish I could say he was a gray. He's green.
Okay.
And
is he small? Is he a small?
No, he's about 5 foot tall.
He's about 5 foot. And is he person-like? I mean, he looks like a person, only he's got different skin, or
no? Once again, he has that rough texture skin, not scales.
Okay, just rough texture.
He's got the eyes, the big round black eyes,
okay,
but like teardrops with the points pointing in like this, and the wider, rounder part on the outside.
Okay, does Corona have pupils, or is it all one big pupil?
All I've ever seen was just the black part.
Okay.
And he has a sense of humor.
Okay.
Sometimes misguided.
Yeah.
I remember the time that I was saying, how do I know you're not a figment of my imagination? And he went ahead, can your imagination do this? And took a cup or a plate, threw it down on the ground, and smashed all the heck. And I said, what are you doing? Of course, the person I was with came in and asked, why did I just throw the plate on the floor? I said, I didn't. There it is, how to get there. And said, now remember, they can't see me.
Well, tell me, did he have a purpose, or did he give you a message for either humanity or yourself?
But essentially, from what I've gathered from the time that I've been there, is that they're actually trying to understand how we really work. And see, you don't go and say, take me to the head of your government.
Yeah.
I mean, heaven forbid, take a look at the United States government right now. I mean, if our government was a family, a family unit, they would be the most dysfunctional family in the written history of mankind.
I agree.
And, you know, the whole situation is, you can't say take me to your, because if you take me to your leader, all I'm going to hear is what your leaders will want me to hear. Now, how do you find out about a society? You live among them, and you get to know the people, and you get to understand the people. So what they do, they'll go ahead, they will hook up with one person, and they will follow that person out throughout life. But, you know, they choose who that person is. And normally it starts very, very early in life, very young. So I always tell people, if you have a child that says, I have friends, and you can't see them, and you go ahead and say, well, those are just imaginary friends, and they tell you, no mom or no dad, they're not, they're real, then you might want to go ahead and think about what might be going on with that child's life. Because it could possibly be the child is actually telling the truth and he's not suffering from any psychosis. It might be that he is one of those, or she is one of those that has been chosen.
Sir, you didn't mention Corona's empathy towards you. When you were upset, he was upset, like you described on page 145 in your book. You were young and you were upset. Because your mother was in the hospital, you hid behind the sink for some privacy. Yet he found you. You felt Corona's bony fingers scratch the top of your head. He tried to explain. Mr. Stone, do you have any interplanetary guest encounters while in the Army?
There in the shrubbery coming out of it are little gray entities about 4 foot tall. As they came towards me, I'm looking at them and thought, what's going on here? But, I didn't say anything. But till the day I die, I'll remember what the little entity said to me. And the way he said it, it was like, Clifford, what are you doing here? You are not supposed to be here. At that time, I got my M16, pulled it up. You normally don't carry your weapon on full automatic. I put it on full automatic and I started to fire. And I yelled out, VC, VC. No reason for us to believe that night. I have no idea why I was yelling that. And that was to alert the other troops that we were no longer alone, that there were a number of little guys there, I'll put it that way. Well, everyone else started to shoot, but our bullets was having no effect. You should see where the bullets would bounce off of them or where they were going through them. All we saw was the flash from our weapons. This was daylight. We couldn't tell what was going on.
Were other people witnessing these little beings?
Oh, yeah. Every soldier there was witnessing.
How many beings were there?
There were about 15 or 20. And, normally you wouldn't think there'd be that many. And for whatever reason, they followed us all the way back to that little stream. We got across it, then they stopped.
Did you just exhaust your firepower and nothing happened and said, what are we going to do now? They're still looking at us.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know what was going to happen.
They had faces that like they were, the color, it's hard to state. It was like a grayish brown or a brownish gray. But yeah, they looked more aquatic. And their eyes would remind you of a frog. Their mouth would remind you of a frog.
Really?
And
They had nose? Did they have a nose too? 2
little slits for the nose.
And did they have scales?
Not that I can think of. I mean,
Were they long?
The skin was rough. Now, what they did have was strange fingers on. I want to say there's suction cups.
Yeah, Colonel Corso
but I can't say that that's the case.
Yeah,
I really.
Yeah. Were they scary to you?
Well, they didn't say anything, but we started to go ahead and we started to shoot. Well, when we started to shoot, I went down, and when I went down, I had my eye injured, but then everything went back to normal. Well, then it was just the entities. And they went ahead and they told me that they had to take care of my eye. If not, I'd lose it. So I'm lying there. Then, next thing I knew, I'm outside. Well, I figured that my people pulled me out and the other thing was just an illusion. I have medical records where I can show you that they stated that an insect sprayed into my eye and cut the corona of my eye. And I wore a patch for well over a week on that eye, and it was this left eye. Now, can you tell me an insect that can do that? I have no idea, and I've searched. I have no idea.
So did your people pull you out, or you just found yourself out?
I was never actually told how it happened.
And
they told me when I went ahead, and the guy we always called the colonel.
Yeah.
I asked him, how'd you guys get me out of there? He says, we didn't.
Oh, he said we didn't.
Yeah. So, my impression, they had no idea how I got out of there.
1969, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Clifford Stone is called in to interface with an alien in custody.
I was picked up by a staff car and I went there. When I got there, I went on in back to the room where our visitor was at. When I got back there, you feel what they're feeling. And our visitor looked down at me, and I looked up at him. To this day, I'll never forget the words, I am afraid. I tried to say, you know, we're not going to hurt you. We want to help you. And I went ahead and said, you know, as long as I'm here, no harm's going to come to you. And he says, but harm's going to come to you and others in this room.
Stone learns from the alien that its companions have an extraction plan which could jeopardize the lives of many U.S. soldiers at the base. The alien is actually trying to warn Stone.
I went ahead and said, if you were outside, would that help? And he said, if I was outside, then there was nothing that would harm anyone.
Hoping to prevent a dangerous confrontation, Stone devises a plan to help free the alien.
I told the colonel that, you know, he's wanting to show me something, but only me. Everyone else has to be back because anyone else is going to be in danger. So the colonel was hesitant first, but then he went ahead and told everyone to clear the building. As soon as everybody was out, the ET and I made a beeline to the back door.
Stone and the alien make it out of the building, avoiding the guards all the way to the fence line.
I'm cutting the wire to just make enough space for him to get out, and I was tearing my hands up doing it. I kept hearing people in the back hollering, halt, or we'll shoot, halt, or we'll shoot. And I was really waiting to die that night. I mean, I expected to get shot.
Stone says he manages to cut a hole in the fence large enough for the alien to slip through.
When he went out, there was this bright light. There's no way I can describe it. It just shined down, then went back up, and he was gone.
Sorry to interrupt you again, Mr. Stone, but the video doesn't describe the anguish our interplanetary visitor went through. Let's recreate what you described on page 176 in Eyes Only.
So, I had a whole lot of mixed feelings about the situation, and I said, "What do you mean that you are afraid?" I could feel what this entity was going through. I felt the fear, and the anguish, and I realized that every place he had been taken was at gunpoint. He was being told he was a guest at every turn of the corner, but he was being handled as a prisoner. I said, "Well, what about your people? Will they be coming to get you?" He says, "They were going to pick me up, where I was before your people arrived."
So you broke him out of his cell so he could be rescued. Mr. Stone, would you talk about your 25-cent tour of the Pentagon?
Well, when you go through the door, there's like a field table there. And behind the field table, you had this little entity. The entity was a little bigger than the 3.5 foot tall entities that are a lot of times reported. But there were two men on either side of the table, slightly behind the creature. But yet I got up and I was asking him why he was acting foolish and things of this sort. I won't go in how we were hitting up on that, but when I turned around, looked right into the eyes of this little creature.
Once again, I found my life flashing before my eyes, in a matter of seconds.
We have contact with aliens not originating from some foreign country, but from some other solar system. Our visitors were anywhere from 1 to 2 billion years ahead of us. They are not hostile toward us.
We have to become more spiritual. If we don't, we will destroy ourselves.
We think of them as something intangible, like that stuffed animal there. But they're living, breathing creatures, as mortal as you and I. They think, they have loves, they have likes, they have dislikes, they have social culture.
this is so important to try to make people understand that that is the case. I want to put the human factor back into UFOs. And when I say the human factor, that these are real people. Governments must never lie to the people.